Hello, I'm Wayne Roseberry from Software Testing. Today I tested testRigor, a AI-driven test case management product. I covered their behavior-driven test case creation feature, which takes instrumentation that you put inside your web page and uses that to capture user actions, and from that derive test cases. It was an interesting test problem to look at because I was treating it like a first-time user. It's new to me, and I was just going off of what was in the product documentation as it was. So let's take a look. Okay, today I'm going to test testRigor, which is an AI-driven test case creation solution, and they have a cool feature called behavior-driven test case creation. I'm going to be taking notes inside of this document here, but the intent is to try using the behavior-driven test case creation feature and see how that works out. All right, so this is going to require some modification of a page that I have. So I'm going to go through that process, record that. Let's see how that looks. I might edit this down if that gets tedious to watch, but I think at least part of the process of how this works for a user of testRigor is interesting. So I've got testRigor here, I've got my document here where I'm taking my notes, and I've got Visual Studio here to do the edits. So let's get back to testRigor. This is a video update. So you're going to see me talk about a bunch of stuff about how I test testRigor, and you're going to watch me draw some conclusions from looking at what documentation there is and proceed with the test. And then I hit some problems later on. I don't want to spoil that. But what I found out after reporting the problems to the team at testRigor, specifically Artem Golubev, the founder of testRigor, is that I had wrong expectations about what the feature was going to do. Specifically, the feature works after you've done a bunch of session capture. So many sessions have to get captured and reported to the testRigor recording service. And then on those big batches, the backend starts looking for patterns. So in addition to capturing sessions, there needs to be a certain similarity so it can identify patterns of what it's going to recommend for case creation. Until it's had that many sessions, and until it has the patterns to identify, it's going to say that there's nothing to create cases from. That's the expected behavior. What you will find as I go through the product in the video is that there is no information about that. It doesn't say that in the UI. It doesn't say that in the documentation. And there's no indication in the app about status on uploads, how many sessions have been collected, how much analysis the service has done, any kind of projection towards how much more do you need for the feature to go to the next stage. To me, it just looked like a bug. It just looked like I had recorded some sessions and they were uploaded. You'll see that. And then I couldn't go further. So I wanted to get that update in there because it's interesting, right? Because talking to a product team member, someone else, in this case, the founder of the company, but even when you're inside a company, talking to other people on the team, when you get confused is part of testing. It's part of interacting with the product. Even when you write a feature, sometimes you'll see behaviors that don't make sense to you, and you might need to talk to someone else about the feature you're interacting with, or you see the product doing something you want to discuss with the team about, is this what we meant it to do and stuff. So this is normal to come across something and have maybe a wrong impression and then talk it out. So that's one thing I wanted to describe. The other thing is to point out what I believe are legitimate issues. The fact that the documentation as it was said nothing about this requirement means that the user can't really go from the documentation and succeed with the feature. They'd have to augment it with something else than the documentation. So that's a problem. So I reported that. Another thing is I see a feature gap. Now this, feature gaps are just ideas. The product team sometimes has better ideas, but the gap that I see is like if this is the case, if we're collecting session data and based on that we're going to do something else with the feature, the user should be told about the status of the session data. They should maybe see where it is, see it count, see what it's done so far, so they can say, oh, we need 10,000 more sessions, or there's only 2 patterns emerging out of this. Can we understand it? Can we learn more about it? So I think there's a valid feature gap inside of the feature. And then the other thing is that the documentation is so sparse, which I raised that inside the original analysis, but it kind of changes flavor when you see how much confusion comes up. Which raises another important point as a tester. I described this as a new user scenario, and legitimately it was. I discovered the feature just, I don't know, within minutes, maybe an hour prior to starting the session. And so I was going in completely raw. And this is a unique opportunity. You don't always get to do that. Sometimes you know a lot about a feature before you start testing it. But that mindset of not knowing yet how something is supposed to happen allows you to capture the state of mind of a user the first time they're encountering it. Confusion is an asset to a tester. It seems like a liability, and people talk about it like it's a liability, but it is not. It is power, because it's a rare mindset that only lasts so long. Once you're told the information, once you know something, that confusion is gone, right? You want to absolutely capture it, record it, say, here's what I thought and why, what I believed and why, and convey that back to the product team, because that is an information asset for the rest of the product team to ponder over the scenario. Is this important to us? Do we want to bridge that confusion, or do we leave it as it is? Do we improve the way the product presents things? Do we improve documentation? Do we do something else? So that is another important point that I wanted to bring in. And really, confusion is hard to capture because you often know so much as a member of the team. But when you get it, try to keep it. Okay, I've kept you too long. I want to get back to the video. So thank you. And let's go back to what I was doing. I'm going to leave the rest of it totally as it was, even though I was wrong about a bunch of stuff, because there still is an interesting testing experience to watch. Thank you.
And the way it works, as far as I can tell, and I've looked through the documentation, I've seen nothing other than a brief mention of this feature in a top features page. Otherwise, it appears that everything on this page is the documentation. So we're just going to take everything that's here as our guidance. I've got the idea is that you take the script that they've got here, you put it in their page. Okay, and they've got an API token below, but if you look, the token is in the script, so that's fine. And this I don't mind that being recorded in the script, because right now the way testRigor works is if you're using a free account, everything you create is open source and visible to anybody. And I'm not doing anything special here, so I don't mind if other people see this. And so seeing the API token, it's not a concern for me at the moment. Plopping it into the middle is, if I were working with something more protected, then this API token being right in the script like that would be a problem. That's actually, I don't know if I'd actually even consider that an issue, but let's issue the API token is hard coded into the example script you are supposed to paste into your page. In general, script should not hard code API tokens if they get checked into a repository, because that becomes a security risk, right? You're supposed to keep that kind of thing in secrets files or other things that get deployed independently of this code storage to your website. If you put it into GitHub repository, if your repository is ever compromised, then people will see your API keys and will be able to pretend to be you using some service, which doesn't matter right now. So does this still happen if not on the free open source plan? Because there is no guidance. There is no guidance on the page. There is no guidance on the page saying, hey, you're on the open source plan, blah, 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 about the API token. So I think that's worth mentioning in this case. But anyway, I guess we take this and we copy it into our source code. And then the rest of the page, recording of user behavior enabled. This was enabled by default when I first came in here. Allow recording to capture input values. This is kind of, I'm glad they separated this out, because instrumenting your app to record input values is a very sensitive thing. And so on the one hand, they may want to do that to do test case creation. On the other hand, that can be a problem if you're keeping that somewhere. So it should be an explicit thing, and it's good that it defaulted to off. I'm turning it on because I'm trying to see what this thing does. And I don't care. It's just going to be me using the page. Maximum text length 100 characters. I'm going to turn this up. I'm just curious what that's going to do. Session cutoff timeout 24 hours. I'm going to leave that on the default. This is the path to my app. It's this one right here. It's a short little app that doesn't do very much. So that's it. And I am going to, first I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to save it. Update successful. So now it knows I want to do this. Let's go over to my page. And this all happens inside of main index.html. So I'm going to paste in the script that they gave me. Let's take a look at this. So one of the things to look at when you're taking examples from a website or whatever is, do the examples that they give you a problem right away? And so that's a nice thing to check for. And so far there's no complaint from Visual Studio about this stuff. I have no red squiggles or anything. So that seems good. I've got a bunch of stuff running on this page. There's some dependency building that happens before I deploy the page. But that isn't happening in the main index HTML. It all happens in VisWrapper.js. I don't need to do a rebuild. This is all my problem, but it's something I'm thinking through as I do this. So what it's going to do, as far as I can tell, is it's setting up a source to push things to at various times. I haven't read this in depth. But this is the place where they're going to collect the actions as far as I can. Oh yeah, an onReady state change. They run the function, and this is insert before. I think this is them injecting themselves into various pages. I haven't really examined this. That might be something interesting to do later. But right now, let's try running this just local and see what we get. Because I want to see, does the presence of this break my page? That'd be a nice little experience to capture. And if you haven't seen this page, I've used this in other sessions. It's a dumb little page. Okay, the page still functions. Let's take a look at the page source and see if that got in there. Okay, the script is in there, so I know I've put it in there correctly and that it's there. So I should be good with that. I think we're good. Let's go back. The page still functions with that script in there. It didn't seem to break the page. Let's see if there's any objections from the dev console as I do things with the page. Like if I change stuff. These are breakpoints that I'd had for other reasons, I do believe. Yeah, this is inside of my code, so that's really not a concern to me. Widen this a little bit so that I can work with it better. Let's just keep things going. I had put these in when I was diagnosing something else, so this is not anything going wrong there. The console. Look at this. The server responded with a status of 403, which I think that's action forbidden, which might be a valid thing, because on the page I told it this is the path to record from, and I am not. I am recording from localhost. That might be what it's responding to, which is, I think I like this. I think I like being told I can't do this from my local page. It's an interesting observation, though. Note, when testing the instrumentation local, copy link address. Let me get this. Is that the same? It's not the exact same thing. So I just want to capture that. This seems correct, because I told testRigor the recordings would come from website, not local. But this does raise the question about testing from local. Maybe that just isn't supported, which isn't necessarily bad. It's just I like making notes of these observations as I go. That might mean something later. The fact that maybe they don't expect a 403. Maybe they'd be surprised to find, oh goodness, there's a 403 there. No, we want that to work. But actually, to me, it makes sense. But it's good to record these things. Regardless, I think we've got a decent. I'm just checking my server thing, which shouldn't show me anything here, because any problems, this is all running client side. This stuff is all running client side. The server's not producing this. So, but just a quick look just in case. Regardless, I think I'm good there. So now I am going to added testRigor instrumentation. Just there, and let's push, and that pushed, and now I am going to let's let the PowerShell start up. I'm now going to push those changes to the website. Okay, that is, let me check my site. This is the real site, so let's refresh this, view page source, because I want to make sure. Okay, yeah, so the live site has the instrumentation in it. That is good to know. Right. So let's go back to, now that is there, let's just kind of look at my plan of what I wanted to do. So now that the page is instrumented, I want to just visit the page and just do some actions. Basically, initially I want to try, just using it without initializing the namespace, and then manipulate some stuff around the page in various ways. I just want to try to see what kind of things it captures. So I'm not going to be really thorough with what I do on the page, but I want to see if it sees some of my actions. And then I'll refresh the page. I'll change the namespace. I'm also want to look at some of the content where the stuff on the page is very data driven, where things change. Some of the stuff on the page creates random content. It's intentionally problematic. Some of it's just dynamic based on what the user has chosen. And I want to see how the recorder deals with that, which is going to depend a bit on what it actually records. But let's go back to my page, and I'm gonna kill the tab because I want it to come in from a fresh tab. Let's go data maker. Okay, and that's not actually, that's the API behind it, because I kept that URL. So there we are. We're in the page now, and like I said, I want to take something without changing the namespace first, and let's just try range alphanumeric schema example. Okay, great. Let's just copy that to clipboard. I don't actually know what this guy knows how to copy. Let's go then copy this to clipboard. Like, what does it see of this? And my objects down here are not very they're not very interesting. They don't do anything in response to user action the way I've written them. So it's not so much interesting to do here unless it's listening to a lot of events. I'm going to change now the type of namespace that we're in, which changes what we've got under here, and then URL changes. And these are really, really random values, so it's interesting to take this and do something with it. Actually, yeah, let's just copy all of that. That winds up selecting a bunch. I didn't think about that. Let's do that kind of same thing on here. Copy. See, I don't even know if it's going to record this action. Okay. Let's shut this down. Let's get a couple of sessions in here. Let's get more than one and see, like, how does it distinguish the sessions? That's interesting information, I think. Let's get the reference schema example. Not that I think these differences should be interesting, but it's still. And let's get one more, just one more coming in here. Actually, you know what? Query thing equals stuff. I'm going to put a query string in here. I just want to see if it knows the difference between them and stuff, if it does anything with that. Like, will it differentiate those? Copy that, because that'd be interesting to record as well. Okay, given that, I'm going to call that good, right? Let's shut that down, and let's tell it trigger new test cases lookup, because as far as I know, this is where the new test cases come from. No recorded data for application. Okay, so let's. I don't. So let's go issue instrumented data maker. Recorded, launched the page at least 3 times, clicked around in the page, then went, clicked trigger new test cases lookup, and got, I can get exactly, but let's get the exact wording on that. No recorded data for application. Okay. No recorded data for application error. see. The page does not say if there is some wait time. How long should I have to wait before the instrumentation is collected? Right? It seems like it should be able to see the collected information, but why wasn't it collected? So that's something to take a look at that. Or don't be cute. Was the error I saw earlier some also happening on the server? So check Roku server logs. Although, actually, no, I'm sorry. This is client side. Let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at this again. Because if it's having problems, I should see it in the dev console. Right? And let's go with this. Okay. I've got nothing, and there's no errors in the console. As far as it seems to know, everything is happening. Let's look at the sources, and let's put, where is that? I didn't expect needing to okay, it's not breaking into there. I might have to inspect this a little closer to find out where to put the breakpoint. This is recorder on ready state change. Does it break into here? I don't read code under pressure well. I'm not getting a break into it. Are we actually... This is something I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time. I'm not going to belabor the viewers with me trying to figure out where everything is, but I've got a function here. There's functions here. Say I'm not going to belabor in here. I go belaboring you. If I decide not to show this, I will edit it out of. I feel like I'm inside every function that's in this thing. There's a function here, function here, function here, function here, function here. So it seems like if it's recording things, I'm just trying to capture would it record things in this page, and it doesn't seem to. Okay, so now it's definitely this is on the page load, which as far as I can tell is I think what it's doing is it's hooking up the events to I think it's trying to attach its instrumentation. Yeah, it's trying to set the onReady state load event to be, I think, this function down here. I think that's what it's trying to do. There it is, insert before. Yeah, I think it's hooking up. I could be wrong about that. And let's keep the debugger. Let's just keep it going. It says it's paused. Okay. We are no longer paused, but now that we've done all of that, I'm no longer seeing in the debugger, but it was definitely on the local page. hitting errors running the page, and it's reporting no errors now. So locally, we know that the script was indeed trying to run because it was complaining. It was complaining trying to download the source, the script at least. And so I feel like this thing is running without complaint. So I don't know. I don't understand why we're not getting new test cases here. And no recorded data for application. Okay, so I think we've got a good little problem here. This might even be worthy stopping right now because I can't really go much further with this session if I'm not recording anything. That just puts a stop on my testing. So that said, I am going to call it done for right now. And this is fun. It's sometimes it's frustrating that you can't go further, but hitting a block on testing is a win, because being able to tell someone I can't test any further because this happened, that's information for them to go, oh no, I think I've got a problem here. What blocked you? And they may actually have a bug. So, frustration deferred, because they could also just tell us, oh yeah, here's what to do, keep going. All right, so I'm going to put a stop on it now.